What if the news of a loved one's death brought not just sorrow, but an unexpected burst of freedom? Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to With Honors. Today we're embarking on a journey through the intricate layers of Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. This powerful yet brief narrative captures a pivotal moment in the life of Louise Mallard, a woman receiving shocking news about her husband's passing. What unfolds isn't just a tale of grief, but one of personal liberation, societal expectation, and the fleeting nature of life itself. Join us today as we dissect Chopin's short story. Grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's turn the pages of the compelling classic together.
How's class been going so far?
It's been good.
French?
No, this class.
It's been good.
Yeah.
That's all you got? It's been good.
I mean, it's been interesting. Obviously, all the stuff that happened last week.
Yeah.
We won't really dive into like the deep depths of everything that happened, but like, I don't know. It's been very eventful. I like Julius Caesar. That's probably like one of my favorite things that we've done in here.
Really?
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm a history buff though, so it's like.
I love like ancient civilizations. I love studying that stuff. That's what I want to go to is my college and major. I absolutely am in love with that stuff. So I love Julius Caesar and I love the Greek mythology unit we did. So basically this semester has been really good for me so far. Not that I didn't like last semester. Last semester was great as well.
Oh yeah.
But I think that this one has to be my favorite because we're just hitting topics after topics that I enjoy personally to talk about.
When I was in high school my sophomore year, Julius Caesar was in the textbook, and we did read it, but it was one of those things where I'm bored in class, so I just flipped ahead, and I was reading on my own, because I always loved Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And they always make that meme about every guy thinks about a Roman Empire.
Oh, yeah.
And you
What's
know
your
what?
Roman Empire?
It literally is Roman Empire. It literally is. I really liked Julius Caesar when I first started teaching it. And man, I got into it. Like they paint me things that say Caesar. They made me crowns. We made all of this stuff. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, the more I teach Julius Caesar, the less I like Julius Caesar. And the less, as a person, the more I realize he's actually the villain. He's the not good guy. Julius Caesar's not the good guy of the play. Even though the play is called The Tragedy of Caesar, it's really about Brutus.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I recognize I see Brutus in myself. Like I see Brutus and Cassius with a lot of things, whether it's injustice in the world, injustice in my job or whatever. And then I showed that clip today about Mean Girls and Julius Caesar. And it's like, oh, geez, am I Regina George? Or no, what's her name? That's complaining.
Gretchen Wieners.
Am I Gretchen complaining about Regina George?
Yeah. But you play Caesar
in
class.
Right? But he's not the good guy.
You sit up there all perched with your laurel crown on, sit here and read the story.
What's it called? A coronet?
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's not a real king crown. But do you remember what Caesar's problem with Cassius was? Because after the party, he says it.
He thinks too much.
He thinks too much. He reads too much. He doesn't like games and stuff.
I think he's just jealous because I don't think that he thinks that Cassius is smarter than him.
That's 100% his problem. He says, I want to be surrounded by men that are fat, sleep-headed men, because he wants to be able to feed you, and you not have a problem with him. But lean, hungry wolves like Cassius see through what I do, and I have a problem with that.
If you think for yourself, he can't indoctrinate what you want you to believe, and he loses power.
Yeah.
Caesar's the bad guy. And that's a problem for me, right? I had a T-shirt that I was Caesar. Like, I don't know, but really, Brutus is the good guy. But Brutus is obviously making mistakes left and right, too.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was supposed to be the episode not about Julius Caesar, but it turned into that anyway. Today I'm sitting here with Callie and Zoe, and you all want to talk about one of my favorite pieces to read in the fall, Kate Chopin's short story, Story of an Hour. Callie, why do you love this story so much?
I love this story because there's so many twists in it, I feel like. Almost like most stories that I read or that we seem to read in class, not in your class, but in classes in the past, even though we're in honors, it's like you can almost expect everything that's going to come. I did not expect anything that was coming in this story. I also think it's a good story because not really relatable for me, but I feel like for a lot of people, especially like middle-aged or older, like women, adults, even though it's like a short story, it's very relatable for a large I guess, a large percentage of a lot of people, not even just in the U.S., but like all around the world.
Holy cow. I love that I have two women who are here to talk today about Story of an Hour. And you're what, 16?
Yeah.
16?
I'm 15.
15. Wait until you guys are in your 30s and then you look back at this. Wait until you're in your 40s and you look back at it. And it's just a different story. Gatsby is the same thing. You're going to like or hate Gatsby, whatever now. But when you're in your 30s, reread it. It is a different book.
I feel bad for Gatsby. I read the book.
I feel bad for him too.
Okay.
I was ready to talk about it today.
Not gonna lie.
There's another character who's also not necessarily as gold as what we thought he was. But Zoe, why this story for you?
Personally, I like this story because when you go into it, it's very stereotypical, and you just feel like you're gonna know what it's about already. And you sit here and you read that her husband died, and she just goes silent, all this different stuff, and you feel bad for her. But that's a stereotypical thing. If a woman loses her husband, everybody assumes, oh, she's destroyed, she's gonna be super upset, which is usually the case. But sometimes there's liberating moments, and I like that this story expresses that, because sometimes, like, not always are women in good relationships when they're married, and it like how it kind of dives into the stereotype that women are dependent on their man or their husband, because it's talking about how they're like all scared to tell her that he died because she has heart troubles, and how she's going to go on without him and all this different stuff. And I think a lot of it can just tie back to the stereotypes that society has about a stereotypical male role and a stereotypical female role, based on what they see.
I was counting on my hand how many times you were saying stereotype, and then I was counting on two hands how many times you said stereotype. But 100%. So you felt like that this was a story you were expecting. Oh, it's got all the typical tropes. I see where this is going. But you also said this wound up having like curves in it, and I didn't see where we were going. Do you have a copy of the story brought up in front of you?
I do, actually.
Do you, Zoe?
Yes.
Perfect students. So next year's class, if they hear any of this, you're going to walk them through some of the things that they might expect out of this. Start from the top. What does Kate Chopin do from the very beginning of the story that really you think gets you into either the character or the situation?
She really just like throws you right into the middle of it. The first lines, literally, she's like saying, knowing that Miss Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble, great care was taken to break to her as gently as possible the news of her husband's death. So as soon as you read that, you're like, whoa, husband's death. How did he die? What happened? Was she there to see that? Like, and who's telling her this? Like, who's telling her what's wrong?
I feel like she kind of throws us in right at the beginning by painting the woman the story is about frail, weak. Like, automatically she's painting her out as like this weak person who relies on other people. She has heart issues. They're sitting here babying her through this. I think like that already sets up like point blank from the start of the beginning. Like the first sentence is literally knowing that Miss Mallard was afflicted with a heart trouble. It's already setting it up for what people want to expect out of the series.
I also feel like that makes her seem old. Like, when I first read that, I thought that this was going to be some old lady.
Yes.
Which we later go on to realize that it's not.
It's quite the opposite. She's young.
She's young.
But so many of our assumptions are immediately old because of what word choices?
Her heart trouble?
Immediately, I'm thinking old.
Afflicted,
like she's cursed or burdened by.
Also that her husband died, like you're thinking that maybe he's older, or like they're just an older couple in general.
Yeah.
Great care was taken to break to her. Like, great care.
You're having to be very careful with her. She's frail. She's weak. I also, every year, kids think that she's old. I also thought she was old. But she's not. She subverts those expectations pretty soon. After that, how does she then build upon those expectations or alter your expectations? How does she play with it after that?
Well, she does mention that it's a railroad disaster. That's like when you think of that, railroad disaster.
It's literally a train wreck.
Train wreck. Bro got ran over by a train. Like, you don't know what happened. Also, we don't know what time period this is set in when we go into the story. So you don't know if he's like working on a railroad or.
Certainly, as kids and adults reading it now in 2025, you're kind of lost without that context. Do you know when the story was originally published?
It says 1894.
That's right. So we're at the almost turn of the century. You're in lower Louisiana in the late 1800s. And that social context sets you up, with so much more information. Ms. Millard is a woman in the late 1800s, American South.
Southern woman. Yeah.
Southern society. There are expectations for her behavior.
Yes.
She is a dainty belle of the South. She is expected to be and to do and all of these things. And now that her husband is suddenly and tragically taken from the world, oh no, this frail teacup of a woman, we got to be careful with her.
It also, like, the second, like, where it picks off, it also continues that whole, like, we need to break it to her gently. Like, because she even says in the text, her sister Josephine told her in broken sentences, veiled hints that were revealed and half concealing. They're still halfway hiding it from her, expecting her to just completely break the second that she actually hears the news. So that adds on to, like, the frailness you're expecting of this woman. Like, because they're already painting her out to be weak. But for them to be sitting here saying that they had to give her hints that were half veiled and had to make her figure it out for themselves so they wouldn't break her heart, she's definitely trying to set up an expectation that she can later break on this character. Because
they're lying to her. I mean, they're not telling her the entire truth. It's what we call equivocating. They're not telling you the whole truth, but they're not exactly lying either. It's like the example I use is when your kid's dog dies. And how do you tell them about it without being so harsh and blunt, right? Yeah. Because you don't want to break the kid's heart, but at the same time, you don't want to lie. So where are you?
I think of, I'm a big Grey's Anatomy fan. I think of, they go into the waiting room. You get that look. You know what's coming. And then they hit you with the, I'm sorry, but we did the best we could. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to sugarcoat that for you. Right. But that's what they're doing for her.
And they're probably using euphemisms. He's passed.
Yeah.
Without saying he's dead. He's been run over by a train or anything like that.
Which I feel like, honestly, I feel like that would be the more preferred thing because you're getting that closure. Like, that's done.
Well, sure. But at the same time, it also lets you have a window in on what her friends think of her and how they treat her with their half-veiled hints, half-concealing, they're not total truths. Oh, we got to be so careful with her. Think about how your friends, treat you. Mm-hmm. And if you're a strong, independent person, I think a lot of times you shrug that off. And like, I don't like to be handled, But if she really is careful, if she really is fragile, maybe she prefers that kind of treatment too. Callie, when does anything change for your expectations for Miss Millard?
I think when she goes into her room.
Why?
And because they use all that, all those like metaphors and personification, all that stuff to make it almost seem like a positive thing. And
in a way it is. Read it for me. What's the line?
She could see in the open square before her house the tops of trees that were all aquiver with the new spring life. So as soon as I read that, I'm thinking, so she's moving into a new phase of her life. Mm-hmm. And this is a good thing because she's not going into winter where it's going to be all dry and cold and like fight for your life, but she's going into spring. This is new stuff being born.
Because it's a metaphorical change of life.
Yeah. Also, her looking out the window is like, I feel like her house is going to be reminiscent of like that marriage that she's stuck in. And she's looking outside like, I want to get out. I want to get out.
1,000,000,000%. That window is an opportunity for her.
Yeah.
And outside that window is nothing but opportunity. Yeah. Life, right? Or so she thinks. Zoe, what about for you? What complicates Miss Millard or adds to it for you?
I think how right after they tell her, they automatically compare her to another woman, how they would react to this. And setting that stark contrast between the two, like a woman who was genuinely depending on her husband, going paralyzed and not accepting what they said. But instead of her, who just starts crying, like she's just with wild abandonment.
That's right. It does. Most women, it says, would have reacted with paralyzed
inability to accept its significance.
So like denial.
Right? Denial. But she immediately wept, right? Like a storm of wild abandonment. Why is she suddenly screaming and crying? Is it because she's in utter grief that, oh no, I've lost him.
I think, no, I don't think it's that. I think that it's the sudden change she sees in her life. I think that the second that they told her she was dead, he was dead, that was like automatically her accepting the fact that I can do something now. I'm not held back. So her hearing that restraint that was keeping her where she didn't want to be is gone. I think she cried with reckless abandon because she's just, at this point, she's just like, not delirious, but she's just so happy with it. She just starts crying without thinking about what she's doing.
But on the outside looking in,
we don't realize
so
that
sad.
she's happy at first
No.
until you get to the end of the story, and then you see everything that folds out.
And what a great metaphor for people, right? If I'm doing hall duty and I suddenly see a girl crying in the hallway, I'm going to be thinking, oh no, what happened? And it might be on the outside that it looks like, oh no, her boyfriend just broke up with her. Mm-hmm. But inside, she might be like, oh, thank God, he broke up with me.
Yeah.
All right. So your favorite part of the whole story then, Callie, let's do you first. What would be your favorite part of the story?
I think my favorite part was honestly when I found out that she wasn't old. Because it said that she was young, but then it says that the lines in her face showed that she had been oppressed.
Yeah.
But then this is after she looks out the window and it said bespoke repression. So it's almost like she had been freed from something. And it also said that her face showed like a kind of strength.
And you really think about this. Did her husband ever oppress her harshly?
No.
No. It was never about him beating her. It was never about him abusing her. He loved her. And she even admits that at one point. I know that he never looked at me except with love in his eyes. But yet the complexity is in our relationships and our treatment of other people, you can hold them to a standard that is unrealistic.
Well, it goes back to, I feel like it almost goes back to that stereotype of how we were saying they're in the South. And during that time, Southern women, even though they may have had servants and that stuff working in the house, it's you need to cook all the meals, you need to take care of the children, you need to help tend to the rest of the house, all the facilities in the house, all those things. And then when we're going to go somewhere, when I take you out with me somewhere, you need to look the best that you can look. You need to have the best clothes on. You need to do your makeup, fix your hair, all that stuff. That's a lot of pressure for a girl.
Well, she's not even a girl. She's,
a woman, yeah.
And you know, not even an individual. She is a role. And
Charlie Hickory's to the front office.
this is going to be good for bloopers. It's always good for bloopers. But she's not even an individual. She's a role. And she can never be anything outside that role, right? Zoe, for you, what's one of your favorite parts or the most difficult part for this?
My favorite part of the story is like the paragraph when she starts to accept that she can do what she wants now. Like in the paragraph that I'm talking about, she says there would be no one to live for during these coming years. She could live for herself. There would be no powerful will bending hers, and that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature.
There it is. It's not about him abusing her. It's these expectations for relationships.
Yeah. And we even see in the next paragraph, the first line says, and yet she had loved him. And then you get this long dash. I forget what it's called. Sometimes.
She also points out, like back to what you were saying, that he didn't cruelly oppress her. Right after she says that there's a blind persistence with which men and women believe they can impose their will on a fellow creature, she says right after it, a kind intention or a cruel intention made the act seem no less a crime as she looked on it in that brief moment of illumination. She's saying that even if they were meaning good on it or if they were meaning bad on it, imposing your will on someone that does not want that to happen is still a crime, whether you meant good or you didn't mean good.
Yeah.
And that just draws back to her husband, who was trying to be nice. He loved her, and he wasn't trying to cruelly oppress her. But in that moment, she was still making sure her point was known of. It was still wrong.
Yeah. Because she's never going to be able to live her life in any other way other than what he and marriage and society thinks you have to be like. I heard some people arguing, shock, on a TikTok the other day. And they were arguing something about morality and politics. And one of the people was so fired up, and she was saying, but I want the best for him. I want him to want this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you don't even hear yourself. I want. And whatever your morality is, you're not letting him live his life and make his choices. You are enforcing your judgments upon somebody who's not even in your household, somebody who's not even in your family. It's your judgments that are bending in this blind persistence that person's life. Zoe, back to you. Why do you think that this story is so important that we keep teaching it in 2025?
I think no matter what time that a story is written, even I don't care if it's written in ancient times, there's still actual things you can learn from the story. And this story is a great example of it, because this entire time she's speaking as like someone who's been freed from something, and everybody can understand the struggle with being restrained to something and wanting that freedom and wanting that for so long, but not being able to get it until a certain time, and then you get that liberty. I mean, that's one of America's main perspectives, and one of their main principles is liberty. You can relate it back to lots of historical events, even if it is just a story. Humans naturally want freedom. They don't want to be repressed. So I think it's a good idea to teach this story, because you're just opening up that idea, and everybody can relate to it, because even if somebody has a great life and they think they're great, they still wish something wasn't there. They still wish they could do something that maybe they can't do.
Callie, why do we need to keep teaching this story?
I totally agree with Zoe. Another thing I want to add is that I think it shows you how to look at life from not a selfish perspective, and I wouldn't say a fully selfless perspective, but from kind of a third person. And it just also makes you realize that you don't realize that you're stuck in those situations until you get out of them. And she didn't have it. We'll have people there to tell us that sometimes, but she did not. And you may not. You never know. And that's something that I didn't realize until I read this. And then she's saying that she wants her life to be long. And then she's thinking, and she's like, yesterday, I was wishing that it would never be this long. I was wishing God take me away, please. I just think it's a good testimony to, you never know what you're going through until you're out of it.
I love that you pointed that out, because somebody can be trapped in a situation and be completely blind to their own situation.
And people judge them for that.
And people can sit there and beg them you need to wake up, you need to wake up, you need to wake up. But this person might be so madly in love with their situation that they can't see that it's wrong. And that's another big struggle with society today, because no matter what, if somebody loves something that they're doing, even though it's completely bad for them, they're still going to do it until at one point something huge happens that's I really do need to leave the situation.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, by that time, that person is stuck.
On that happy note. Does she wind up having a happy ending?
No.
I think...
Well, she died happy. She died happy.
I think, honestly,
She didn't get what she wanted.
it depends on how you look at it.
Boy, say that one more time.
It definitely depends on how you're looking at it. Because her husband does come back. He didn't die. But
What is the very last line that's so ironic for us?
When the doctor came, they said that she had died of heart disease, of the joy that kills. That's the good part, I feel, almost, because she died feeling good, She didn't die stuck in that situation.
And there's that up for debate perspective. Did she die of joy seeing her husband again, or did she die from having that joy taken away from her of being free?
Ouch. Because we are looking through the doctor's perspective at that point, that they say that she died of the joy that kills. So we only know it from the doctor's perspective. Oh, she was so happy to see her husband.
But then you're thinking in that time period, and you're they were not that advanced. They didn't know a lot about medicine. Over the past, especially, I also love any idea about medicine because I want to do surgery. In the last, 150, 200 years, medicine has advanced so much. We're not cutting into people, letting their blood bleed out, hoping that their sickness will go away.
Right.
So should we trust everything that this doctor says? No, but I also think it's a good metaphor. I don't think they meant that literally.
Oh, sure.
Like,
I think it's also just the complexity of that perspective, the best that we know as an outsider looking in on their relationship, their marriage, on anybody's life. I mean, you brought that up too, that the irony is we think we know this, and here he thinks he's being a good husband, but really you're repressing this woman by not allowing her to be herself.
You only know what you hear.
You only know what you hear and what you think you see, right? And here they're looking on the outside in and assuming, oh, she died of the joy that kills, bless her. But really we know because of her inward perspective that she's just lost out on the greatest thing, right? So there's sadness, there's irony, there's tragedy.
You don't know what happens behind closed doors. That's the best that I'm going to say for that one, because
True.
you only know what people tell you. You cannot actually know if a person feels a certain way. And you can try to be there for somebody as much as you want, but you cannot imagine what that person has been through or what that person is going through. So you only have an outside perspective, and you just assume things about people. And it's a natural human trait to just assume. And you can't know anything unless people tell you.
I also think that me and Zoe can relate to that a lot because, as I know, it doesn't even have to be like somebody who's in a relationship and they're trapped in it. It could be any situation.
Yeah.
And especially for those types of kids, I feel like that's very, like this story is very relatable to them, and they almost don't feel like they're by themselves because, like, those types of situations can get very lonely, and it gives a sense of community almost.
Literature gives you a sense of community, and it breeds a sense of empathy for other lives and other perspectives. I love that.
Yeah. As we wrap up this episode of With Honors, we want to thank you all for joining us on this enlightening exploration of Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. We've uncovered the layers of emotion and complexity that define Miss Mallard's journey from grief to an unexpected sense of freedom. We hope this discussion has inspired you to reflect on your own interpretations of freedom and the roles we play in our lives. Until next time, keep turning those pages and seeking meaning in every story. Thank you for being with us today.